Greetings, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we'll be reading the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World as put out by the Universal Negro Improvement Association at their International Convention on August 13th, 1920. If you're reading along in the text, it starts at page 441.
Greetings. My name is the Revolutionary Matron, and my show is called The Learning Curve. I broadcast on a network called KWAZ Radio. There are other hosts on the network I'd like you to meet.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed here belong solely to the respondents, and they do not necessarily reflect any broadcast networks, affiliates, nor sponsors. The Learning Curve is a broadcast created for the benefit of my global community. Black is a consciousness. Content is being used for our commentary, research, criticism, education, scholarship, teaching, preaching, and news reporting. No copyright infringement is intended. I will make enunciation mistakes. I will give you my opinion about the information. And if you ever ask, I will send you my source.
The Declaration of Rights for the Negro Peoples of the World, as outlined by the UNIA. The following declaration was signed by 122 convention delegates. Some 50 signers went on to take leading roles in the affairs of the association. Among the signers were Garvey's secretaries, Janie Jenkins and Mary E. Johnson, J.J. Cranston, head of the Baltimore Division, Reynold F. Austin, head of the Brooklyn Division, the Jamaican delegates Frederick Samuel Ricketts, Carrie M. Ashford, and James Young, heads of the Canadian divisions Richard Edward Riley, T.H. Golden, and I. Braithwaite, Edward Alfred Taylor of Pittsburgh, Frank O. Raines of New York, Shedrick Williams of Cleveland, Emily Christmas Kinch of Liberia, Prince Alfred Makani, and UNIA Field Representative Sarah Branch. Greetings, Oni, from the Pro-Black Perspective and Forecast Radio, and all of those listening. If you would like to hit the link to join the conversation about these rights or some of the grievances that they had, please feel free. Preamble. Be it resolved that the Negro people of the world, through their chosen representatives in Convention Assembly in Liberty Hall in the city of New York and the United States of America, from August 1st to August 31st in the year of our Lord, 1920, protest against the wrongs and injustices they are suffering at the hands of their white brethren, and state what they deem fair and just rights, as well as the treatment they propose to demand of all men in the future. We complain that nowhere in the world, with few exceptions, are Black men accorded equal treatment with white men, although in the same situation and circumstances, but on the contrary, are discriminated against and denied the common rights due to human beings for no other reason than their race and color. We are not willingly accepted as guests in public hotels and inns of the world for no other reason than for our race and color. That was their first complaint. They wanted access to public hotels and pools and inns and different places that white people were involved in. Number two, in certain parts of the United States of America, our race is denied the right of public trial accorded other races when accused of a crime, but are lynched and burned by mobs. And such brutal and inhumane treatment is even practiced upon our women. And I will add, it was even practiced upon children. Number three, that European nations have parceled out among them and taken possession of nearly all of the continent of Africa, and natives are compelled to surrender their lands to aliens and are treated in most instances like slaves. That's still going on to this very day. Number four, in the southern portion of the United States of America, although citizens under the federal Constitution, and in some states almost equal to the whites in population, and are qualified landowners and taxpayers, we are nevertheless denied all voice in the making and administration of the laws, and are taxed without representation by the state governments, and at the same time compelled to do military service in defense of the country. So he was against the drafting of Negroes. Number five, on the public conveyances and common carriers in the southern portion of the United States, we are Jim Crowed and compelled to accept separate and inferior accommodations and made to pay the same fare charged for first class accommodations. And our families are often humiliated and insulted by drunken white men who habitually pass through the Jim Crow cars going to the smoking car. Number six, the physicians of our race are denied the right to attend their patients while in the public hospitals of the cities and states where they reside in certain parts of the United States. Our children are forced to attend inferior separate schools for shorter terms than white children, and the public school funds are unequally divided between the white and colored schools. They do that with our taxes to this day. Number seven, we are discriminated against and denied an equal chance to earn wages for the support of our families, and in many instances are refused admission into labor unions, and nearly everywhere are paid smaller wages than white men. Still going on. Number eight, in civil service and departmental offices, we are everywhere discriminated against and made to feel that to be a Black man in Europe, America, and the West Indies is equivalent to being an outcast and a leper among the races of men, no matter what the character and attainments of the Black man may be. Number nine, in the British and other West Indian islands and colonies, Negroes are secretly and cunningly discriminated against and denied those fuller rights of government to which white citizens are appointed, nominated, and elected. Is that still true to this day? Do they figure out new, interesting ways to exclude us? Number 10, that our people in those parts are forced to work for lower wages than the average standard of white men, and are kept in conditions repugnant to good civilized tastes and customs. Working conditions are still bad. That the many acts of injustice against members of our race before the courts of law in the respective islands and colonies are of such nature as to create disgust and disrespect for the white man's sense of justice. So why do we respect their laws if they are not just to us? And number 12, against all such inhuman, unchristian, and uncivilized treatment, we here and now emphatically protest and invoke the condemnation of all mankind. In order to encourage our race all over the world and to stimulate it to a higher and grander destiny, we demand and insist on the following Declaration of Rights. Number 1. Greetings, Koku. How are you tonight? Thanks for tuning in. Number 1. Be it known to all men that whereas all men are created equal and entitled to the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and because of this, we, the duly elected representatives of the Negro peoples of the world, invoke the aid of the just and almighty God, do declare all men, women, and children of our blood throughout the world free citizens, and do claim them as free citizens of Africa, the motherland of all Negroes. Number 2, that we believe in the supreme authority of our race in all things racial, that all things are created and given to man as a common possession, that there should be an equitable distribution and apportionment of all such things, and in consideration of the fact that as a race we are now deprived of those things that are morally and legally ours, we believe it right that all such things should be acquired and held by whatsoever means possible. By any means necessary, we needed to go get our stuff back. Number 3, we believe the Negro, like any other race, should be governed by the ethics of civilization and therefore should not be deprived of any of those rights or privileges common to other human beings. Number 4, we declare that Negroes, wheresoever they form a community among themselves, should be given the right to elect their own representatives to represent them in legislatures, courts of law, or such institutions as may exercise control over that particular community. Number 5, we assert that the Negro is entitled to even-handed justice before all courts of law and equity in whatever country he may be found. And when this is denied him on account of his race or color, such denial is an insult to the race as a whole and should be resented by the entire body of Negroes. Number 6, we declare it unfair and prejudicial to the rights of Negroes in communities where they exist in considerable numbers to be tried by a judge and jury composed entirely of an alien race. But in all such cases, members of our race are entitled to representation on the jury. Number 7, we believe that any law or practice that tends to deprive any African of his land or the privileges of free citizenship within his country is unjust and immoral, and no native should respect any such law or practice. Number 8, we declare taxation without representation unjust and tyrannous. And there should be no obligation on the part of Negroes to obey the levy of a tax by any lawmaking body from which he is excluded and denied representation on account of his race and color. Number 9, we believe that any law, especially directed against the Negro to his detriment and singling him out because of his race or color, is unfair and immoral and should not be respected. Greetings, Bawana Haguziki and Anthony McPhail. Thank you so much for tuning in. Number 11, we deprecate the use of the term nigger as applied to Negroes and demand that the word Negro be written with a capital N. Number 12, We believe that the Negro should adopt every means to protect himself against barbarous practices inflicted upon him because of color. Number 13, we believe in the freedom of Africa for Negro people of the world, and by the principle of Europe for the Europeans and Asia for the Asiatics, we also demand Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. Number 14, we believe in the inherent right of the Negro to possess himself of Africa, and that his possession of same shall not be regarded as an infringement on any claim or purchase made by any race or nation. Number 15, we strongly condemn the cupidity of those nations of the world who, by open aggression or secret schemes, have seized the territories and inexhaustible natural wealth of Africa, and we place on record our most solemn determination to reclaim the treasures and possessions of the vast continent of our forefathers. Number 16, we believe all men should live in peace with one another. But when races and nations provoke the ire of other races and nations by attempting to infringe upon their rights, war becomes inevitable, and the attempt in any way to free oneself or protect one's rights or heritage becomes justifiable. Number 17, whereas the lynching by burning, hanging, or other means of human beings is a barbarous practice and a shame and disgrace to civilization, and we therefore declare any country guilty of such atrocities outside the pale of civilization. So if you lynch by order of law, then you are not civilized. Number 18, we protest against the atrocious crime of whipping, flogging, and overworking the native tribes of Africa and Negroes everywhere. These are methods that should be abolished, and all means should be taken to prevent a continuance of such brutal practices. Number 19, we protest against the atrocious practice of shaving the heads of Africans, especially of African women or individuals of Negro blood, when placed in prison as a punishment for crime by an alien race. Number 20, we protest against segregated districts, separate school public conveyances, industrial discrimination, lynchings, and limitations of political privileges of any Negro citizen in any part of the world on account of race, color, or creed, and will exert our full influence and power against all such. Number 21, we protest against any punishment inflicted upon a Negro with severity, as against lighter punishment inflicted upon another of an alien race for like offense, as an act of prejudice and injustice, and should be resented by the entire race. So if you do the crime, you should do the time, and there should be no preference when it comes to race. Number 22, we protest against the system of education in any country where Negroes are denied the same privileges and advantages as other races. Number 23, we declare it inhuman and unfair to boycott Negroes from industries and labor in any part of the world. Number 24, we believe in the doctrine of freedom of the press, and we therefore emphatically protest against the suppression of Negro newspapers and periodicals in various parts of the world, and call upon Negroes everywhere to employ all available means to prevent such suppression. Number 25, we further demand free speech universally for all men. Number 26, We thereby protest against the publication of scandalous and inflammatory articles by an alien press tending to create racial strife and the exhibition of picture films showing the Negro as a cannibal. Number 27, we believe in the self-determination of all peoples. Number 28, we declare for the freedom of religious worship. Number 29, with the help of God Almighty, we declare ourselves the sworn protectors of the honor and virtue of our women and children, and pledge our lives for the protection and defense everywhere of our women and children, and under all circumstances from wrongs and outrages. Number 30, we demand the right of unlimited and unprejudiced education for ourselves and our posterity forever. Number 31, we declare that the teaching in any school by alien teachers to our boys and girls that the alien race is superior to the Negro race is an insult to the Negro people of the world. Number 32, where Negroes from, and I think they meant to say form, a part of the citizenry of any country and pass the civil service examination of such country, we declare them entitled to the same consideration as other citizens as to appointments in such civil service. So he wanted them to no longer be considered subjects of empire, but citizens, because citizens have special rights, privileges, and protections. We vigorously protest against the increasingly unfair and unjust treatment accorded Negro travelers on land and sea by the agents and employees of railroad and steamship companies, and insist that for equal fare we receive equal privileges with travelers of other races. We declare it unjust, number 34, we declare it unjust for any country, state, or nation to enact laws tending to hinder and obstruct the free immigration of Negroes on account of their race and color. Number 35, that the right of the Negro to travel unmolested throughout the world be not abridged by any person or persons, and all Negroes are called upon to give aid to a fellow Negro when thus molested. Number 36, we declare that all Negroes are entitled to the same right to travel over the world as other men. Number 37, we hereby demand that the governments of the world recognize our leader and his representatives chosen by the race to look after the welfare of our people under such governments. Number 38, we demand complete control of our social institutions without interference by any alien race or races. Number 39, that the colors red, black, and green be the colors of the Negro race. Number 40, be it resolved that the anthem, Ethiopia, thou land of our fathers, etc., be the anthem of the Negro race. The Universal Ethiopian Anthem, a poem by Burrell and Ford. Ethiopia, thou land of our fathers, thou land where the gods love to be. As storm cloud at night suddenly gathers, our armies come rushing to thee. We must in the fight be victorious. Our swords are thrust outward to gleam. For us will the victory be glorious when led by the red, black, and green. Advance, advance to victory. Let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, the black, and the green. Ethiopia, the tyrants falling, who smote thee upon thy knees, and thy children are lustily calling from over the distant seas. Jehovah, the Great One, has heard us. has noted our sighs and our tears, and his spirit of love he has stirred us to be one through the coming years. Advance, advance to victory. Let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, the black, and the green. O Jehovah, thou God of the ages, grant unto our sons that lead the wisdom thou gave to thy sages when Israel was in sore need. Thy voice through the dim past has spoken. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hand. By thee shall all fetters be broken, and heaven bless our dear fatherland. Advance, advance to victory. Let Africa be free. Advance to meet the foe with the might of the red, the black, and the green. Number 41. We believe that any limited liberty which deprives one of the complete rights and prerogatives of full citizenship is but a modified form of slavery. Number 42. We declare it an injustice to our people and a serious impediment to the health of the race to deny to competent licensed Negro physicians the right to practice in the public hospitals of communities in which they reside for no other reason than their race and color. Number 43. We call upon the various governments of the world to accept and acknowledge Negro representatives who shall be sent to said governments to represent the general welfare of the Negro peoples of the world. Number 44. We deplore and protest against the practice of confining juvenile prisoners in prisons with adults, and we recommend that such youthful prisoners be taught gainful trades under humane supervision. Number 45. Be it further resolved that we as a race of people declare the League of Nations null and void as far as the Negro is concerned, in that it seeks to deprive Negroes of their liberty. Number 46. We demand of all men to do unto us as we do unto them in the name of justice, and we cheerfully accord to all men all the rights we claim herein for ourselves. Number 47. We declare that no Negro shall engage himself in battle for an alien race without first obtaining the consent of the leader of the Negro people of the world, except as a matter of national defense. Number 48. We protest against the practicing of drafting Negroes and sending them to war with alien forces without proper training, and demand in all cases that Negro soldiers be given the same training as the aliens. Number 49. We demand that instructions given Negro children in schools include the subject of Negro history to their benefit. Number 50. We demand a free and unfettered commercial intercourse with all the Negro people of the world. Number 51. We declare for the absolute freedom of the seas for all peoples. Number 52. We demand our duly accredited representatives be given proper recognition in all leagues, conferences, conventions, or courts of international arbitration wherever human rights are discussed. Number 53. We proclaim the 31st of August of each year to be an international holiday to be observed by all Negroes. Number 54. We want all men to know we shall maintain and contend for the freedom and equality of every man, woman, and child of our race with our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. These rights we believe to be justly ours and proper for the protection of the Negro race at large, and because of this belief, We, on behalf of 400 million Negroes of the world, do pledge herein the sacred blood of the race in defense, and we hereby subscribe our names as a guarantee of the truthfulness and faithfulness hereof in the presence of Almighty God on the 13th day of August in the year of our Lord 1920. So as you can see, he had a prolific list of rights, things that we should still be fighting for. And looking at some of those rights in regards to public accommodation spaces and steamships and trains and public inns and hotels, I wonder if people read that and said, yes, I am advancing the cause of the UNIA if I get them to be able to spend their money with white people. Because remember, amalgamation, integration, and assimilation are all forms of death, all of them. Bwana Haguziki says we need to update that constitution. We've moved from capitalizing Negro. We have moved from capitalizing Negro. But what would we call ourselves? Would we call ourselves Black? Because there are people that want to be integrated into our movement that are not all Black. The movement has moved beyond just an all Black movement because the mulatto class in a lot of these places and spaces has taken time to make attempts at being integrated into the Black class because of the way in which warfare is done. So they are hy- mm, I forget the word, but it's where you integrate downward into the lowest class and caste of people. So as I read this, I felt like our rights were never fully asserted. We didn't have an opportunity to really live the dream that Marcus Garvey laid forth for us. And I feel like we need to be fighting for these rights to this very day because our men, women, and children are still shot down in the streets. We're still dehumanized. And instead of giving us humanity, the way that the Eurasian has acted and interacted with us is that they will dehumanize themselves in order to ensure that they continue the petty abuses and offenses that they carry out towards us. Did anyone have any comments or did anyone have anything they wanted to add to the conversation? Because that is our Declaration of Rights. That is what we should stand on. We should update it. Instead of saying the right of the Negro to travel unmolested throughout the world be not abridged by any person or persons, and all Negroes are called upon to give aid to a fellow Negro when thus molested, it should be Black person. Um, I think that we should update the language. I think that we should make it more concise because you got to remember this was written 100 and almost 104 years ago, 103 years and 6 months ago. So they were thinking in terms of trying to paint with a very broad brush. I think we can come in now with a scalpel and be a little bit more precise. I think that, excuse me, I think that we need to look at how these petty abuses are happening, like when they were whipping the Haitians at the border that were coming across, and how they treat and open the doors wide for anyone else that is not Black. Did you hear that the census data is now going to have a space for Latinos, um, Middle Eastern people, and North Africans? So they are trying to consolidate whiteness and expand all of the other races of people as line items in the census data. So there should be in the government forms coming up a place for them to put that they're Middle Eastern or North African or Latino. So whiteness is being condensed and these other groups, the honorary whites, are being singled out. Did you guys hear about that? I think that we need to get our politics right. We need to tell our story the right way so that we can have an opportunity to have as much political influence and power as some of these other groups have. But we can't get past disliking one another. We can't get past our tribal differences. We can't get past some of the petty things that we have going on with ourselves. He said, no, I didn't hear. Who do they include in white? They include all of those groups. So, you can be Hispanic, but you can be Hispanic and Latina. You can be Hispanic and white. You can be Hispanic and black. But now they have on the census data coming up, which, is going to take 10 years for it to totally unwind itself and totally fully develop. But right now they include Egyptians in white. They include any of the North African countries in the white category because they're not black. And they include the Middle Easterners, those Afghanis that they flew in over here. They just want to separate the white people don't like each other. So we have to remember that they don't necessarily like each other. They just know how to come together to pick on us. So they used to include Mexicans, they used to include Middle Easterns, they used to include North Africans in the white category because they didn't put black because black or Afro or African American were specific people from specific African countries. So now they're just further defining themselves. They're taking the time out to further delineate all of these other groups of whites. So they are removed. I don't know if Asian appears on the census. Hold on, let me look that up. But I know that they are updating it so that they can figure out who these people are. Census classification. Census changes. So this was published one day ago by Changing America. The census will include check boxes for Hispanic or Latino, Middle Eastern, or North African starting in 2030. The revisions mark the first change in ethnic and racial demographic collection since 1999. Changes will apply to all federal collection of demographic data within 5 years. So, yeah, from the Hill. So as you can see, they are further delineating the groups. And as they are further delineating the groups, it's going to be more necessary than ever for us to find our group of Black people and organize with them. And for there to be bridges, because you don't have to get along with everybody in every group of Black people, but you do have to find your group of Black people, and they do have to find bridges and pathways to working with other groups of Black people. What is Black in the census classification? Where does the North African, Morocco, Liberians, they Black? If they are North Africans, they can now say that they are white, that they are North African. They can now say that they are North African. This is the first change to race and ethnicity categories in 27 years, and it comes after years of criticism that major racial and ethnic groups are left out of demographic collection. So they want to be counted as their own ethnicity. So as the country is turning colors and changing, they want their piece of the pie. They want their piece of the American dream. It says, in previous censuses, most people of Middle Eastern background were listed under the white category. and Hispanic people were considered an ethnicity separate from race. People of North African descent did not have a clear individual category. So, so the North Africans are going to be considered white. And they are going to be considered their own category because they were previously considered white. Let me see if I can pull up the census racial categories for you guys. You won't see it, but I'll see it. Sorry about that. So previously it was Black, white, Native American or Alaska Native, Asian, and Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. So they're adding 3 new categories, which will be North African, Middle Eastern, and Latina. So this should be interesting. But yeah, guys, I didn't have anything else to add other than to say that we need to revise this document. We need to perhaps look at it from a different perspective with new eyes because he had a huge plan for pan-Negroism, as it's been called, instead of Pan-Africanism, pan-Blackness, Black nationalists. North Africans and Middle Easterners fall under Mediterranean or Eurasian. I agree. Where is Latina? Latina would be Mexico, I guess. I'm assuming they want to count and know how many Hispanics they have, how many Mexican speaking people they have that they can integrate into a group. Latino according to the census. Hold on. They want to do something. Okay, so a quick Google search says that there are 63.7 million people that identify as Hispanic, and they are going to take those people, which is approximately 19.1% of the total US population, and make them their own category instead of saying that you can be Hispanic as an ethnicity and then be Black, white, or whatever, then you can just say Latina. And I don't know if they're going to take Hispanic off. I think that they are. Is a culture, not a race. You can be Black and Latina. The designation will be white Hispanics. Well, when they add Latino to the census data, Latino or Hispanic and Middle Eastern or North African starting in 2030. When they add that to the census data, it's going to be interesting to see how those people begin to identify themselves. Yeah, I think they are removing the Afro-Latin people and putting them in that category in an attempt to fudge the numbers, in an attempt to say that Black people are a true minority here in this country. I think it's just a way to give these other people groups an opportunity to lobby for themselves in a way that we don't lobby for ourselves. And it's necessary for us to stop trying to be so separate that we tear our own house down. We tear our own house down by trying to be so separate and independent. Well, guys, I promised I wouldn't hold you long, and I thank you for showing up today. I think that we need to revise our rights. We need to review the rights as outlined by our fearless leader, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and we need to get to the point where we are actually moving towards asserting those rights. Our next three books have actually been picked. We're going to read Up from Slavery. We're going to read The Negro in America. We're going to read The Negro Pilgrimage. So first, we're going to read Up from Slavery. Then we're going to read The Negro in North America. Both of those are by Booker T. Washington, and then Negro Pilgrimage. So hopefully you guys enjoy the reading. I thank each and every one of you for coming and tuning in. I want to thank Bawana Haguziki, Brother Bakari, The Forecast, Sister Raw, Afro Native, Tinkerbell 87, Jesse's Kids Academy, oh, and the Daycare Ladies Network who support this work. And I want to thank each and every one of you, which would include Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, Oni from the Pro Black Perspective, The Forecast Radio, Anthony McPhail, Bawana Hakuziki, and Sister Raw. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll be back Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will start reading Up from Slavery. Thanks so much for tuning in. Peace, guys.